Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. There's lots to cover in this video. I'll tell you a few of the topics. First of all, a couple of these I covered, but to start off with CoinMe, the kiosks that we believe will be holding XRP, maybe not so fast, even though Ripple is indeed investing through their spring initiative. I've got a new perspective from Hodor that I haven't seen anywhere else, and I look forward to covering that with you. I got to share with you a story about Hot Pocket, and now try Lean Pockets too. No, I kid. It's not that Hot Pocket, not the one that, as Jim Gaffigan stated, is scalding hot on the outside and frozen on the inside after microwaving. I think that was Jim Gaffigan anyway. Not that Hot Pocket. It actually has to do with a piece about Codius, which is Ripple's, as I understood it always, Ripple's smart contract platform. I've got a developer in here I want to share with you with Hot Pocket that states something slightly different. I've talked about Codius on this channel. I've never talked about Hot Pocket, so that part's definitely brand new. I want to share with you another thing that's in Hodor's blog here. It was about, it's just some of the cool snippets from Brad Garlinghouse's most recent interview on CNN. And so everything that I'm covering, it's from Hodor's blog here. But as is usually the case, his blog is awesome and very long and very comprehensive, and these are all incredible things, but it does make it a little bit too long for Moon Lambo to cover in a video, so I gotta be selective about the parts that I find personally the most interesting here. Now, before we get going, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. It's a reasonable thing to do. So let's start from the top here. And Hodor, he titled this blog entry, 7 Ways from Sunday. And I always love reading the opening part of Hodor's blogs because, first of all, he's a great writer, but he's also super insightful. And the way he writes, there's a lot of ways you could describe it, but I just say powerful. And that's generally how I feel about how he writes. So anyway, the piece begins. 7 Ways from Sunday is a Western colloquialism that signifies a task that can conceivably be done a different way for each day of the week. It's a colorful phrase, and it means this is going to happen. When I think of the increasing pace of growth of the XRP ecosystem, the news about Ripple, Coil, and other champion organizations that are building on it, that phrase keeps popping up in my head. It's not any one particular thing that will help XRP succeed. It's all of them. The use cases for XRP are gargantuan. The first one, usage as a bridge currency, has a total addressable market measured in numbers that are almost impossible for the human mind to grasp. The Forex market and the cross-border transfer market together are measured in quadrillions of dollars per year. Here's a list of XRP's use cases. Bridge currency, micropayments, web monetization, interledger payment streaming, decentralized trading, sharing economy, and smart contracts. And the second one is on the list, micropayments, is growing fast. Coil is attracting interest from all corners of the web, and it's apparent that Ripple takes this use case very seriously, having just invested $1 billion XRP into the Coil ecosystem, fueling deals like the one with Imager. Some of the other use cases, like web monetization and interledger, are connected to micropayments, but exist on their own as well. Stakeholder organizations like Rise, Omni, and others are investigating ILP and its applications for their respective businesses. XRP's ecosystem is expanding with a level of intensity that only comes from teams that are laser-focused on their projects and initiatives. We've seen substantial progress from Ripple on multiple fronts, including the proactive leadership they've taken trying to achieve regulatory certainty here in the U.S., and Coil is interacting with the W3C, universities, and other stakeholders in the field of web monetization, all while championing the growth of their new blogging platform. While other technology projects may depend on descriptions based on hyperbole, XRP is in no need of exaggeration. This is one digital asset that will be adopted 7 ways from Sunday. And then he jumps into general crypto news. And this I found fascinating, the way in which he wrote about what he wrote here, XRP and Bitcoin. Check this out. Do people that are new to cryptocurrency know about the difference between the various transaction validation approaches for decentralized networks? Probably not. If you're having a first conversation with somebody about cryptocurrency and XRP, talking about the way in which the different cryptos validate transactions may be a bit out of range. Instead, it's better to start with concepts that the person can readily understand. But eventually, it's important to point out some of the important characteristics that should weigh on their own preferences about which coin to buy, support, or investigate further. One of those important characteristics, some would say the most important, is the network's impact on the environment. And this is where the hypocrisy of Bitcoin maximalists becomes readily identifiable, like a polar bear in a San Diego zoo. The worst network is Bitcoin, and its impact on the environment is troubling. Bitcoin maximalists would rather this information be either swept under the rug or attacked directly. As improbable as it sounds, some of them try and argue about the actual statistics, even though the numbers have been successfully defended multiple times. If attacking the messenger doesn't work, they will inevitably jump through any number of hoops to try and rationalize the harm to the environment. Instead, the obvious answer is to use modern technology and approaches instead of outdated approaches that require massive amounts of electricity to power competing with Bitcoin miners. Couldn't have said it better than myself, Hodor. Indeed, it's a complete train wreck at this point. Look, I appreciate the fact that Bitcoin was created in the first place, but it may as well at this point just be prototype technology. That's a reasonable way to look at it from my perspective anyway. It belongs in a museum somewhere to be appreciated, but not used. Seriously. I still question its store of value attribute. But anyway, so check this out. Here are a few. So Brad Garlinghouse, in case you missed this, Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, was interviewed by Julia Chatterley on CNN, and it was fascinating. Hodor covered a few of his favorite questions on here, and they go as follows. So here's a question from Julia Chatterley of CNN. Which banks right now are actually using Ripple? And Brad Garlinghouse states, we've signed up over 200 banks around the world. Some of those banks just use our software to do that debit and credit, fiat to fiat, and some of them are using XRP in those flows. We have banks like Santander that we've been working with for years, and they're moving lots of volume through Ripple's technology. And as I mentioned earlier, payment providers like MoneyGram or RIA or Azimo that are using XRP to move that liquidity and really reducing their costs and improving their product. So then Julia states, is the message to investors don't use XRP to speculate? And Brad says, people are going to speculate on different asset classes. People speculate on gold, currencies, you name it. People are going to speculate. The long-term value of any digital asset is going to be derived from the utility it delivers. There's a lot of hype in the crypto market space. We've seen that recently. There's a lot of attention going on around Libra and Facebook's announcement. Today, that's just a white paper. I would encourage anybody looking at this marketplace to understand what is real, what is not, and understand, is there a use case? Is there utility? And Julia then says, but you agree you can control the price to some degree of XRP. And then Brad says, oh no. I do remember that response. It's pretty emphatic. Anyway, and then he says, Brad says, if you look at the correlation between XRP and most of the crypto market, you'll see a very high degree of correlation. Ripple can't control the price of XRP any more than whales, wealthy crypto traders, can control the price of Bitcoin. I don't think anybody is in a position to manipulate those prices. And then Hodor states, it was a hard-hitting interview, and Julia Chatterley covered additional topics as well, such as how institutional sales work and ownership decentralization models. Many of the topics that are the focus of debates and discussions on Twitter were posed to Brad Garlinghouse during a total of 15 minutes. So very cool stuff there. And if you haven't seen that interview, I encourage you to check it out because those were a couple cool snippets there, which went in more detail. I didn't do quotes. I just kind of talked about some of the topics in my video where I covered it. So that's some additional detail there. Now let's talk about this. This is an interesting perspective from Hodor, and I like that he's coming from a place of just the real world realism. It's not all puppies and ice cream all the time here. Not that anything necessarily is going bad, but check out this perspective, okay? This is about CoinMe, which I covered within the last few days or so. The announcement about Ripple's spring investment into CoinMe occurred on Friday, September 13th. The tweet from Ethan Beard appeared on my Twitter stream, and I grew excited, especially from the way that he described it. His tweet said, "Can't wait to see XRP on @CoinMeATM." And then it linked to the blog written by Sunweet Wadha, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, I don't know how to say that name. I then noticed others from Ripple had sent congratulatory tweets as well, including Warren Paul Anderson, Ripple's product manager. I clicked into that thread to see if he commented further. Scrolling down the tweet thread to see who has responded, I noticed that CoinMe's Twitter account had been interacting with people on the thread, and that Alex Cobb, a popular XRP YouTuber, had asked, quote, "Do you think we would ever see other assets like XRP included within the kiosks?" And then Hodor continues, "My first reaction after reading his question was, well, yes. Ethan indicated that in his tweet. But I noticed that there was no reply to his question from CoinMe. Perplexed, especially given the tweet from Ethan Beard, I asked CoinMe myself, will XRP be available in the kiosks directly? Still no response. Then I noticed that a third person had posed the question too, again with no response. Then I sent a DM to a Ripple employee to inquire about the announcement, and was only able to confirm that Ripple received an equity stake in CoinMe as part of their funding. While I hope that Ethan Beard is correct about seeing XRP in the kiosks eventually, I haven't heard from anybody, not even CoinMe, that can confirm whether or not XRP will be available directly in their kiosks. And usually when a company that is as interactive on social media as CoinMe doesn't comment, it's because they want to avoid giving bad news. And so the official blog and official announcement said nothing about XRP being available in the kiosks, and instead indicated that the money would be used to, quote, obtain additional licenses to operate nationwide and expand to key international markets. So I don't know what to make of that. It's I hope that it gets listed ultimately. I don't know, or listed. I hope that it gets sold in the kiosk ultimately, because that was a big part of the excitement. Based on what Ethan Beard said, I mean, everybody that reported on that in the crypto media and XRP YouTubers, it was reasonable to state that because Ethan Beard flat out came and said it's going to be used. But I must admit, this is kind of strange, is it not? So I don't know. So anyway, here's Hodor's take, and he writes, while the announcement speaks to a positive and inclusive mindset to helping build the Internet of Value, it's fascinating that the company receiving the investment would not even entertain the idea of listing XRP in its machines. It's my perspective that companies should be supported as part of Spring, but if that company demonstrates that it is actively protecting Bitcoin's market share, Ripple may want to do a hard pass on it for the time being. And alternatively, if the benefit from this business deal is part of some clandestine strategy that can't be revealed, then the announcement is even more perplexing because it shouldn't have been publicly disclosed. As of this writing, the announcement is only a couple days old, so perhaps new information about the spring investment will be revealed. So if something comes from that, I'll be happy to report on it, but as I read that, I was a little bit like, I don't know. But we'll see. Maybe it is going to come to pass. Who knows? Maybe they're just not ready to release specifics because something isn't technically figured out. Maybe Ethan Beard spoke too soon. Who knows? You just go down the speculative rabbit hole. But who can say here? Let me jump down a little bit. I wanted to cover if I can scroll fast enough to get there. I'm sorry. His blog, it's freaking gigantic. And that's a good thing. It is a good thing. But I can only cover select things as a result. So Hot Pocket. Okay, let's talk about this. It has to do with Codius and smart contracts and XRP Ledger and all that good stuff. So let's hop in. Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket. When those in the West saw the name of Richard Holland's new creation, my guess is that they immediately thought of Hot Pockets, the processed, ready-made food that resembles pizza surrounded by pie crust. This is great. This Hot Pocket is completely different, however. It refers to a new network that can process and distribute inputs and results from smart contracts. The idea is that each node in Hot Pocket forms a network collaboratively and exists within the confines of Codius hosts. Above is my own rendering of my intuitive understanding of the way that Hot Pocket would run. Each node in that diagram is hosted on a Codius host, and each node of Hot Pocket is connecting to other nodes. Each node is a stakeholder to the same smart contract and form a network to distribute the inputs, state, and outcome of the smart contract. The developer who created Hot Pocket is the same creator of the Toast XRP wallet, Richard Holland, so he's very well versed in how the XRP ledger communicates and operates. When I contacted him to find out more about Hot Pocket, he provided additional background. And so here's a quote, what I'm about to read. This is directly from Richard Holland. Okay? Codius, at the moment, is just a standardized way of obtaining hosting. It's not a smart contract platform. And again, just note that he did say at the moment. So I can go out and host my website on 5 random Codius nodes, but there's a massive gap between that and a decentralized service. How do the 5 nodes talk to each other and to users without just being 5 independent copies of your program? Codius is just a way of obtaining hosting programmatically. At the moment, if you want to hire some time on a server, i.e. a VPS, you have to use a set of human user interfaces to sign up to a host and then buy hosting with that host, and those interfaces are different at each business you go to. Codius provides a standard API to buy hosting from hosting providers. Now a program rather than a human can buy hosting, but Codius isn't a smart contract platform without a consensus engine. So the ideal stack is smart contract runs on Hot Pocket, runs on a bunch of Codius nodes. The nice thing about that setup is theoretically your smart contract can pay for its own hosting and acquire new Codius nodes if existing ones go down. And then Hodo writes, he also provided a little background about what prompted his interest in creating Hot Pocket. And now back to Mr. Holland here. To be honest, all the smart contract platforms I've seen have been hot garbage. Ethereum. Walled garden problem every time. He didn't say Ethereum. Walled garden problem every time. The contracts need to be real programs that can interact with the real world, not fake programs running in a fake world. Basically, if your smart contract can't phone you up, it's not free enough to be useful. I've wanted to do a smart contract solution for XRPL for quite a while, but having a real world use case for it was motivating me. And then Hodo writes, after looking into a possible solution that would lock his idea tightly with XRP, he decided instead to think about smart contracts as completely separate entities from a specific settlement layer. He then went in a new direction. Quote, it out of necessity because, redacted, so there's another name there, and I are building an identity solution, and we needed a smart contract platform that will work with the XRP ledger. Stakeholders can run their own nodes, which will provide their own encrypted store of ID documents. Each smart contract should be its own blockchain. When it comes to smart contracts, this is Hodo now. When it comes to smart contracts, Ripple was wise to be patient. Given some of the analysis and comments from Richard Holland, it makes me wonder how smart contracts will eventually be used to process financial information in contracts. If the solution and platform are done correctly, it should usher in an era of creative new business models, revenue streams, and even derivative markets. Congratulations to Richard Holland and his creation, and perhaps we'll learn more about the project he's working on with another XRP community member. And I gotta say, it just brings me back to when I entered the world of cryptocurrency. And in terms of smart contracts, I thought, okay, well, if there's something to smart contracts super duper, and I looked at Ethereum and I thought, okay, so this is a blockchain with a native digital asset attached to it, and you can use that to pay for smart contracts. But then I started thinking to myself, well, why do you have to pay for them with Ethereum? And then you get into the whole interoperability thing. And so part of that, from what my understanding was, and this helped flesh out my understanding, because I'm always learning too, but that's why I started thinking, okay, well, at least with Codius, then you can use whatever you want, right, to settle and to move money around, all that good stuff. So this is just fascinating to me. We'll see the direction which it goes. Hope it doesn't sound too negative about XRP on that, because who knows? This is one project here, but that's where we are in. Also, as it pertains to Codius, that's not exactly the thrust of what Ripple is doing right now, so you can kind of take that for what it's worth. But anyway, and then I do want to read this last little snippet, and then I'll wrap up the video. This is just how Hodor concludes his blog here, and I just like the way he writes. Participants in the crypto market need to awaken and realize that there is one digital asset in the mix that will usher blockchain technology into a future of true business utility. While its primary use case, its use as a bridge currency, is measurable only with the assistance of extremely large numbers, other users are now forming into sharp relief as well. It's these alternative use cases that might actually challenge or even eclipse the demand for XRP from its primary use case. To stay apprised on all the ways that XRP is achieving new levels of utility, subscribe to my blog on Coil. And if you haven't already done so, please consider purchasing a subscription to Coil. Coil streams XRP in small packets to content creators on its platform and any other platform that is Coil enabled. Purchasing a subscription to Coil helps grow the new market for web monetization and hence expands the demand for XRP. The Internet of Value is being built by an immense explosion of energy, resources, activity, and talented people. This building is taking shape along each of the use case paths for XRP, all of which are large enough to result in material levels of demand for the fastest and most convenient digital asset on the planet, XRP. Well done, Hodor. I'm a huge fan of Hodor. This guy's awesome. What a great writer, and just, you know, you can just tell the zest with which he compiles this information and writes. He's really got a true passion for this, so kudos to him. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate the support. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!